A new study illustrates another heavy toll of the pandemic. Numbers from the National Health Interview Survey and the CDC found 40% of Americans reported symptoms of anxiety or depression during the pandemic, compared to only 11% before. Joining us now, practicing internist Dr. Lucy McBride. Dr. McBride has a new piece in The Atlantic titled, "By Now, Burnout is a Given." It reads in part, "Simply being human carries occupational risk. Now is the time to redefine burnout as the mental and physical fallout from accumulated stress in any sphere of life, whether it's work, parenting, caregiving, or managing chronic illness. To muster the energy for re-entry into non-pandemic life, people need more than a vaccine and a vacation. They need validation of their experience, a broader reckoning with how they lived before March of 2020, and tools to dig out from more than a year of trauma." Dr. McBride, it's great to have you back with us. I want to start with that top-line number that started our conversation. More than 40% of Americans say they experience anxiety or depression right now during this pandemic. What do you take away from that number?
Well, that matches what I'm seeing in my practice, Willie. People are wired and tired. They are exhausted from 16 months of disruptions of their lives. The contours of their everyday existence have been completely thrown out the window. Kids have not been in school. Parents have been struggling to manage caregiving, working, parenting, caring for elders. And as our previous guests on your show explained, women have taken a unique toll in the pandemic, trying to juggle all of the responsibilities. Burnout has typically been described as a workplace phenomenon. I beg to differ. Being a human carries occupational risk, particularly in a pandemic when we are living through what I call collective trauma.
Yeah, and as you write in your piece, Dr. McBride, this is to be expected. And I think it's important for people to hear that and to know that there's nothing wrong with you. As you told one of your patients, you're human. You're being a human being. You've experienced all this trauma, this collective trauma, this personal trauma over the last year and a half or so. So the first step, it seems to me, is to say, it's okay. We all have some version of this. So many of us are feeling what you're feeling. And then the next question is what to do about it.
Right. So, it's normal to experience some level of anxiety or fear or just distress. I mean, that's part of the human condition. And we're long overdue to recognize that human beings are more than just a set of boxes to check. My job is, to assess people's mental and physical health in tandem. And so one of the things I'm talking to my patients about every day is sort of validating and normalizing their lived experience, regardless of what it is, because we all bring, our whole selves, we should bring our whole selves to the doctor. And one of the ways that we need to deal with this is as a society. We need to come to terms with the fact that we've created this hustle culture that, existed well before the pandemic, but then the pandemic sort of threw lighter fluid on the grill, so to speak, or the fire of despair. And now we are expected to rebound and go back to our old lives without contemplating for a minute how to really gain agency in our own lives and how to think about, if we have that luxury, to change parts of our lives that we have control over.
Yeah. I'm wondering about our young people in their 20s and early 30s, Dr. McBride, who seem hesitant to come back to work. I've talked to CEOs of companies across different industries, and they all seem to be having the same problem where it is safe to come back, but it is especially the younger people who don't want to. And whether it's been a year in isolation, whether they're afraid to come back, or is it something else? I mean, is this burnout, or is this a different type of psychological strain? And is the answer to let them stay home? Because often it's people, when people are together, number one, that's how younger employees grow and learn and develop themselves and get promotions. But also, number two, I think it's part of the solution to the problems they're confronting, being so lonely.
I think that's right. And I think young people have suffered a unique toll in the pandemic, particularly, kids who've been out of school and robbed of their normal existence. Yeah, I think we need to have a reckoning societally. We need to have employers understand that people bring their whole selves to the workplace. And there's no one size fits all recommendation for every individual, which is why I hopefully will always have a job. But some people are going to benefit, many people will benefit from flexibility in their workplace, and from having access to affordable childcare, even supplied by the employer. In other words, we need to think broadly at this watershed moment of the pandemic on how to support individuals in society and how to support ourselves as we muster the energy to re-enter life when life has taken a huge, huge change.
Dr. McBride, I've been observing that there almost seem to be two camps of people in how we approach what happened with the pandemic. The camp that's very hesitant to re-enter, and then the camp that wants to just ignore that everything over the past year happened and just move on completely without addressing it. How scarred do you think, and how seismic of an experience was this last year compared to, say, World War II and the American Homefront experience? I feel like now, nationally, we all have an obsession over hoarding toilet paper, kind of the way our grandparents thought about sugar.
Right. I think it would be abnormal to not have some sort of emotional reaction to the collective trauma we've been through. And what I'm seeing in my office is the physical, mental, and whole health fallout from being under siege. No matter who you are, no matter what changes to your life, happened during the pandemic, you've no doubt experienced some sort of trauma. And so it's really important that we acknowledge that and that we bring that to our own attention and that we bring it to our doctor's attention. I hope someday we live in a world where every American has unfettered access to a primary care doctor, which is a hub for problem solving, where mental and physical health meet, where we can be fully seen and heard, and where people's mental health, physical health are addressed in concert, because after all, we are complex individuals.
All right, Dr. Lucy McBride, as always, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. And